be voting. Sometimes parents don't remember they should be voting. So this is going to give you a quick and easy way to talk about it. And I want to introduce Emma Ehrenmark right now, who developed the script, who's going to go over it with you. And then there's a whole bunch of us on this call who can answer any questions you may have. Christian McMahon, who's one of the other co-chairs with me and Wesley, is also on and can certainly answer with Emma any of the specific questions you may have on some of the substance. So take it away, Emma.
I just wanted to say, Wesley, like my mom is Judy. Like she said,
She's my daughter.
Yes, is the president, the leader of the outreach. If you just wanted to say hi or say anything about the outreach committee before we begin.
Hi, my name is Wesley Witherspoon, and I'm the chair of the Outreach and Connection Committee. And we'll appreciate if you come to our meeting at 1 p.m. tomorrow, outreach. So if you please have the time, please come to our meeting because we need as many people as possible because this election is going to be huge. We need a lot of help because there's a lot of people going to vote. This is probably the thing at the entire 2020. This is probably the highlight of the whole year. So we need your help. Thank you.
Thanks, Wesley.
Thank you, Wesley. So I just wanted to introduce myself. Along with being Judy's daughter, I'm currently going into my senior year of college. I have a brother with autism, and I have been raised to be very much apolitical, but also be fight for and advocate for people with disabilities. And I think that this coalition is such a great mixture of voting advocacy and disability advocacy. So as Judy said, I've created a script to make it super easy and accessible for anyone who wants to be an outreach worker and talk to people that they know about voting and about these issues. The script is pretty much verbatim what you would be saying to whoever you're conversing with. You don't really need to improvise or try to think about what you want to say. It's all kind of written there. So that's kind of the philosophy of the script. So I'm going to share my screen and go through the script with you. So here's the outreach script that everyone should have gotten. And if you haven't gotten it, then we can send it to you after the training. So first thing that the outreach script says is talks a little bit about Disability Vote California and what it is and the coalition. So what Disability Vote California is a coalition that's nonpartisan, and we campaign to eliminate barriers to voting, promote accessibility of voting technology and polling places, educate voters about issues and candidates, promote turnout of voters with disabilities across the state, engage candidates and the media on disability issues, and protect eligible voters' right to participate in elections. And we have a super awesome website, disabilityvoteca.org, that Christian runs and Christian created. So if you have any questions on the website, you can go to him. So if you are an organization serving or advocating for individuals with disabilities or their families, we encourage you to reach out to your members and clients and other people that you know through phone or video calls, emails, texts, or in person safely to support them and to ensure that their voice is heard this November. This script will take, depending on who you're talking to, will take anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, depending. So there are 3 parts of the script. There's of this script. We have about the 2020 census information, registering to vote, and your plan to vote. This is just our kind of September. We're going to do 3 pushes of outreach throughout the voting season. This is our first one, which centers on those 3 issues. In October, early October, we're planning on doing another outreach push related to what's on the ballot, what candidates' beliefs are, what the propositions are in a nonpartisan, plain language way. And we're going to be making another script like this at that time. And then lastly, we'll do one more push late October, early November. Just get out the vote. Whatever you do, vote, vote, vote. So that's kind of our, we're doing this push now because the census deadline is September 30th, and that's coming up really fast. And we want to make sure that people are registered to vote before the deadline of October 19th. So anything else I wanted to say? Also the philosophy of this is that it's kind of like phone banking, but not. Phone banking is something that you call up strangers and you say, hi, I'm a stranger and I want you to vote. And I think that it can be effective, but it also is a little bit not effective because why would you believe a random stranger? The philosophy of this script is that you're calling people that you know and who know you and trust you. People who you work with, your clients, your family members, your peers, and telling them to vote, which is more effective than just a random stranger calling you up and you hitting decline. What I wanted to share quickly before we go through the script is an email template that Marianne Kaler helped me create, and she's super awesome. And so this is basically, we're going to send all of this out after the training as well, that if you or anyone you know wants to get involved but may not have time to be an outreach worker, you can just send an email out to everyone you know, and this is a template that you can just copy and paste onto your email and spread to your network, just about what Disability Vote California is and also what this outreach script is. So we will be sharing that, just has pretty basic information about that. In case if you know people who would benefit from this, or if you know other people who may not have time to be an outreach worker but will want to spread the message, send this their way. Okay, so let's go through the script. So first we're going to talk about the 2020 census. And what you will see here and notice in the script is that anything in italics is what you say, and anything not in italics is direction on what you should be doing based off of the responses of the person you're talking to. So first you say, hello, my name is blank. You may even know this person. So say, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm calling from this organization. Today we'll be talking to you about 3 important subjects: the 2020 census, registering to vote, and making a plan to vote. So first off, we're going to start with the census. Have you filled out the 2020 census? As you can see, there's the not italicized says, if yes, then proceed to the next question, which is registering to vote. If no, we're going to go more in depth into the census. So the 2020 census is very important because it counts the number of people in the United States every 10 years. The census tells the government how many people need services like schools and roads, and it talks a little bit more about why the census is important. And the census is important for people with disabilities because it decides how much money is given for services, healthcare, and education. It is really important to be counted. Everything you fill out is confidential. There are no questions about your immigration status on the census. Make sure that people know that. So you can go right now to this link to fill out the census online. So what they will either say, so we have the link here, and what we recommend, especially if people are hesitant or unsure of anything about the census, we recommend that you go with them through the process of the census in case they have any questions along the way. Because if at some point they're confused, they might just give up, and we want them to complete it. So you can start questionnaire, and the first thing that comes up here is it says, where can I find my 12-digit census ID, which is an ID that was sent to you and mailed to you back in April. So a lot of people may not have that anymore. If they do, they can put it here. If they don't, just say, if you do not have a census ID, click here. That should not scare them because then you just start the census right after that. And here is written all of the questions on the census, including how many people live in your house. Is your house owned or rented? Or do you live there without paying rent? What is your name? What is your sex, male or female? What is your age, et cetera, et cetera. So just in case they have any specific questions on what will be on the census, you have that right there. Going back up, here's the census link. Maybe that individual does not have a computer or Wi-Fi. There is a way to fill out the census through the phone. So you can click this link here and tell them, don't worry, you can still fill out the census. And they have a lot of phone numbers that you can call up. There's a list of the phone numbers here in a lot of different languages in case that they need that. It's loading, but that, and they can ask them, do you need help? There aren't that many questions, and it should only take a few minutes. I filled out the census just to see it. Okay, here's the toll-free numbers. 844-3302-2020 is English, 844-468-2020 is Spanish, etc., etc. So that they know that they can do it even if they don't have a computer or have Wi-Fi. And if they would want to know any more, here's census.ca.gov/GOTC is more information about the census if they want anything else. The second part.
Hey, Emma?
Yes.
So let's stop for a moment and see if anybody has any questions just on the census section.
Okay.
So there's not so many folks here, so you can just probably speak. If it looks like people are starting to talk over each other, then I'll have you guys raise your hand. But does anybody have any questions specifically on the census? So I think, some of the things, oh, was there a question?
No, I was just responding to you.
Okay, thanks, Esther. So one of the things that I've heard, particularly from Latinos, is that, they still remain worried, even though there is a guarantee that they're not, that the immigration status is not asked, and that they're concerned about the confidentiality. Sometimes families are concerned because there's a lot of people who live in their household. Maybe it's multi-generational, and it's super important that you advocate to them that the census is critical to get you services, to get your child services, to get your family member services, and that it is completely confidential. You don't have to say or do anything that would make you feel uncomfortable. So I think that's important. Another barrier that I've heard from people, and by the way, as of maybe 3 weeks ago, only 65% of Californians had actually filled out the census. So that's really bad. That means that we will only get 65% of the government funds that we need, and we'll only get 65% of the congressional seats. So it's critically important that people fill this out. The other piece that I've heard is like, well, what if I do not identify as male or female? What if I am mixed race? I mean, there's, the census is by far not perfect. It's not even good. The census is controlled by the Trump administration, and they wrote questions in it in the way they wanted to. They actually did want to ask about people's immigration status, or no, they didn't want to count people who were undocumented, which means they would have had to ask that question. And that was overruled by the courts. So, the census is not without controversy for sure, but we are counting on you to help people get past that. And this is, if anything, this is your biggest priority, because it ends in less than 2 weeks. Like, it is over. And if you didn't get counted by September 30th, you're not getting counted. And the other thing you should know is that the original the original date of deadline was the end of October, and out of the blue, like 3-4 weeks ago, the Trump administration just said, yeah, we're going to make it a month earlier. With no reasoning. They just said that. And I know the reasoning is they don't want all of us counted. And so, that works to their advantage. So it's super, super important for you to gain their trust and to help them fill it out. All right, go ahead.
Yes, all good, thanks. Okay, so the next part is registering to vote. So first ask them, are you a US citizen and a resident of California, 18 years old or older as of election day, not currently a state or federal prison or on parole? And then the last one, which is more kind of important for our community, is not under a conservatorship where a court specifically ruled you are not allowed to vote. So if someone is conserved, they can still vote, but there is an extra check mark that the court needs to check in order for someone to not be eligible to vote. So just because they're conserved doesn't mean that they can't vote. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So if the answer was yes, if they are registered to vote, great. Or I'm sorry, if the answer is yes of are you a US citizen, resident of California, etc., you say, great, have you registered to vote? If they have no questions about conservatorship, scroll down, it says proceed to options for voting. So this is the next this is the next part that you go to. The rest of this page is about more information about conservatorship and voting. So if the individual or family member knows that they are conserved, but is unsure of if they're allowed to vote, there are ways to find out if you're eligible. And this says kind of word for word what they should do. So they could check the order appointing a conservator with the form with the number GC 340. There is a section that says whether or not you're allowed to vote. You can also tell them to, if they cannot find that form, ask the conservator if they have the right to vote, or ask the case manager at the regional center. And lastly, they can call their county elections office to ask if they're eligible to vote. So there are some people who are conserved that are not eligible to vote, but just because they're conserved doesn't mean that they're ineligible. So make sure that they know that, and don't just say, oh, I'm conserved, or oh, my son or daughter is conserved, they can't vote, because they might still be able to.
Can I just add one thing on that, Emma? So it was as of until about maybe 5 years ago, the courts, when they would conserve an adult with a developmental disability, was automatically checking that extra box, eliminating the person's right to vote. And there were several class action lawsuits, including one by Disability Rights California, which we won, our community won, which said that the judges overreached, and these individuals should have been able to retain the right to vote. So even if the person has that box checked on their conservatorship, which says that they are not found competent, and it basically says mentally competent to vote, that can be overturned extremely easily now because of this class action lawsuit. The regional centers can actually help you in that process, and there should be someone at every regional center with knowledge about how to make that happen. It's a relatively simple process with a letter just going to the courts. I believe that if you reach out now and find out somebody's conserved and that box was checked and they want to be able to vote, you can still make it happen in time to be able to vote in November.
Yeah, and we should add that to the script so that,
yeah, it's a little bit complicated. That's the problem.
It is complicated, but just so you know, someone being conserved doesn't mean that they are not allowed to vote.
Mm-hmm.
If they are already registered to vote, go to the third question, which is talking about options and planning for voting. If they're not sure if they're registered, this is a great link. Vote.org I did this and it was super easy. You just put your name, your address, and it tells you if you're registered, and that was super cool. And it'll also tell you what the address that you're registered with. So ask them, you can go to this link or vote.org and click on check your registration, fill out your information, including your name, address, and email. And this website will let you know if you are already registered. Would you like help? Sometimes people will go, I don't know. And they'll say, oh, I'll check later, and then they'll forget. So make sure you say, would you like help? I can go through it, and you have the link as well. So you can go through it with them and make sure that it works. If yes, they want help, click the link and go through the process with them. If they are registered, this website will let them know, and ask them, once they have that address, if they've already registered, is the address that came up the address that you currently live in? And if it's not, then they have to register to vote again with your current address. And if they don't do that before October 19th, which is the deadline to register to vote, they can still vote, but it will be a provisional ballot. And they can register in person at a polling place or a vote center or county elections office. And that means that the provisional ballot just means that they won't be, they have to check, make sure that you haven't voted twice. And so it's just going to take longer for your vote to count. And just tell them, I can help you re-register to vote right now, if you like, instead of later or never. And here's registertovote.ca.gov, which is the registering to vote link. And say register to vote now. They also have it in other languages. And you just follow along here. It's also not super difficult. If they are not registered to vote, say register to vote is the only way for you to have a voice and vote in the upcoming November 3rd election. Would you like me to help you register to vote? So here's a link again. And these are all the questions that are going to be on the registering to vote form. Is, are you a citizen, or 18 years, etc. Just so if they have any questions on anything about registering, these are all the questions that will be asked. If they do not need help registering, proceed to options for voting, which is the last part. So first, instead of asking, do you have a plan? Instead, say you need to have a plan. What is it? What is your plan to vote? Because this year is such a special year because of COVID-19 and our pandemic that it might be unsafe to vote in person, and that we need to have many options. So ask them, what's your plan? And if they have a plan that says, oh yeah, the minute I get my mail-in ballot on the week of October 5th, I'm going to fill it out and I'm going to mail it back, or I'm going to drop it at a drop box. If they have already a plan, then you don't need to talk to them about this and just say, awesome, great. And proceed to the last part, which is just talking about key dates to remember, key dates, deadlines of voting, and all the issues that we talked about. But if they don't have a kind of a thoughtful, safe plan that they've already thought of, tell them what their options are, because maybe they'll just say, I'll just vote on the day of, but maybe they would prefer other options and they just don't know about it. So there are a few options. The first is to vote by mail. So for the November 3rd election, all registered voters in California will automatically be sent a vote by mail ballot, so they don't have to worry about requesting it. Vote by mail is when, if they don't know what that is, it's when you fill out your ballot at home and then put it in the mail later. So here are the 4 options for this year. The first is to get your ballot and mail it back, dropping it off at a post office or leaving it in your mailbox at your house. The second option is you can drop it off at a drop box on election day before 8 p.m. You can also return it at your local polling place on the day of the election, or have someone else, a friend or family member, drop it off for you. And I've done that before because I've never voted in person because I've always been at school or in another state during an election. So that as long as you sign the back, you will be able to have someone else turn in your ballot for you. The second option is to vote in person on or before election day. So here's the link to finding your polling place. Just pull that up really fast. This is the California Secretary of State. And you enter your address and they'll tell you your local polling place. And you can show up on November 3rd. This year, some counties will have polling places and vote centers open 3 days before the election, so you don't have to wait in the long lines on the day of the election. In-person voting locations will be physically accessible and offer accessible voting machines. Reassure them of this. And voting locations will require masks and take other precautions, so they don't have to worry about that too much. But it's still better. Encourage them to vote by mail, just to avoid being around other people during the coronavirus pandemic, being close to others. Voting by mail doesn't necessarily mean using up the post office. It can mean just dropping it off at a drop box, and that'll be a lot easier. The polls might have very long lines, and you can prevent this by preventing and waiting in long lines by voting by mail or putting your ballot in a drop box. The last option is the remote accessible vote by mail systems, which allow voters with disabilities to cast their vote privately and independently in their home. This gives a voter with a disability an opportunity to download the ballot, and they read it and mark it using their assistive technology devices. At that point, a voter with a disability has to print out their selections and return them to the county elections office. And it's not internet voting, it's just using, doing voting accessibly with your technology device. And you can request one by contacting your local county elections office. Now, the last part is just some key dates, reminding them to make sure that this isn't something they can delay forever, that these dates are coming up really fast. So the fastest one is September 30th, deadline of the census. Make sure that if they're not filling it out with you, that they have a plan to fill it out before September 30th. The deadline to register to vote is October 19th. You can still vote if you don't register by October 19th, but it will be a conditional, provisional ballot, which is what I talked about previously. And the deadline to mail your ballot or turn it in person is November 3rd. And the day of the election is November 3rd, just in case they forgot. The last thing you want to say to them is just say, if you have any more questions or want any more information about this, you can watch our Disability Vote California webinars on Thursdays. And there's a lot of plain language resources and documents on disabilityvoteca.org. And there's also the Disability Rights California hotline that has the number here, just in case they may have a question later on and want someone to talk to about it. So that's the script. Also, if you would like to join Disability Vote California and our coalition or sit on a committee, you can put your email or there's also on the Disability Vote California website, there's a link to get involved and put in your email and you'll be invited to all the meetings.
Thank you, Emma. So that was, I know that was like a lot of information coming at you, but some of it hopefully you all knew. So just wanted to know, first of all, if Christian or Wesley wanted to add anything, explain anything that Emma talked about.
I think Emma did a great job, and I'm just here because I want to learn how to engage other people on this stuff. But I think you did a wonderful job and covered everything very thoroughly. And there is, on the conservatorship piece on the Disability Vote California website, there's a link to a DRC article about it that actually has a sample letter for people that they can just like print and insert their own name into if they want to try to regain their access to the vote.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Christian. Go ahead, Wes.
I would say that Emma, she did a really good job explaining with the voting, explaining the census, and the deadline is September 30th. So if you don't have by September 30th, it's not going to count. So it's very, very important that we're out now. And with voting, I think she explained that the conservatorship very, very clear, because people get confused with conservatorship. And now we're going to focus on the deadline of voting. And know about the proposition. That's going to come later on, though. On the candidates and officers.
Thanks, Wesley. So sort of the final thing, and then we'll open it up if anybody has any questions, is that, you know, we are doing this training and are offering this script, not out of, you know, because we have nothing else to do, but because we really think that this is the best way for us to get the vote out. That it's the direct contact of people who serve people with disabilities, who can actually do the outreach instead of cold calling everybody at, you know, everybody who's served at the Autism Society of Los Angeles. We have Rhonda Capito reach out to the people and the members of the Autism Society of Los Angeles because they know that they're leaders at ASLA instead of somebody from the ARC calling them. So you know, we really are counting on all of you to be our liaisons to the community. So, you know, so I want to open it up to any substantive questions that people may have about the script, but then also, or about the you know, how to vote and all those kinds of things. But in addition, you know, I would love to hear from all of you what kind of outreach you think you can commit to doing, because that way I can report back to our full committee and let everybody know, not the full committee, but the full coalition. So I'm interested in hearing what you all can commit to. And then finally, if you do want to join Disability Vote California. I'm keeping the mailing list for a weekly. We have a weekly meeting every Friday from 4 to 5. The 5 different committees that we have all report very quickly so that everybody's on the same page. Every Monday, I put out an email to the whole group. I think it's probably over 100 of us on it now. Where I say, here are the asks for the week. So here's the plain language material that you should promote. Here's your social media messaging. Here's your meme. Here's the webinar for the week. Here's the script. So we communicate with you often. You do not have to join our coalition. You do not have to come at our meetings from 4 to 5. You can just take the script and and reach out to your own members. But if you would like to, and you're not currently on the committee, on the coalition, please leave your email address, if I don't already know you, in the chat, and I will be sure to add you. So anybody have any questions specifically about the script or want to talk about how they're going to do outreach with it?
Yeah, I have a question. So we were thinking of being able to put it in our newsletter, the information. Do you have things that you can provide to us that we can put in newsletter, doing social media, that kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could certainly break this down into, here's information about and we've been doing these messages, by the way. Each week we say, here's the message that you should be sending out to your members. And then we also have like a one pager or something on it. But we could also, for the script, just give you the information that's on it so that you can just put that out as well. So we have lots of different ways to get you that information to put in your newsletter. And particularly, we don't want to wait till, I know like ASLA does usually around the 1st of the month. That's too late for the census. So I think it's really important. I know that like the ARCA just put out a really great email telling people your census is up, like this is it. So I think right now everybody should be super focused on the census, and then the next set of materials will really be around voting, because people are going to be getting their voter book with all the issues in it, all the propositions and all the candidates. That's being mailed out, I think, Wesley, tell me if I'm wrong, around the 24th or 26th of September. Well, which date? I can't remember. Christian, do you know?
I actually got mine already. I don't know how.
Well, oh, we haven't gotten ours yet.
I got mine this week. I can hold it up.
Oh, yay. So this is being sent out. Wow, it's thick. This is being sent out by the counties because each county has different, obviously, races in it. So
I'm in Sacramento, if that helps you.
I think there's a state deadline by which counties must have sent it, but your county obviously is ahead of the game.
Yeah, we're pretty extra up here.
Yeah. So I think by next week, most people are going to get their book. And so I think the election will now be on their minds. But people can register to vote on election day. So just because people say, oh, I missed that deadline, doesn't mean they can't vote. So we got to keep people engaged all the way up until election day, and we got to keep on them. Even on election day, election day is we're going to have a whole different script on election day, but we should be calling through every single one of our contacts on election day to make sure that they voted.
Hi, Judy. This is Karen. I'm sorry, my camera isn't working. So
No worries. Hi, Karen.
Hi. So as you know, I'm always involved in a lot of different organizations, but the census part, also the PTA is encouraging us to put that out. But I think that, sorry, it just got noisy. The thing that I will send this out to the disability organizations that I'm involved with, obviously like Club 21 and stuff. But the thing that I'm interested in is because I'm on the League of Women Voters for the South Bay Election Committee, and we've been making some flyers, and I wanted to make some that were specifically aimed at, you know, as you say, plain language and at the disability community. So what of this, we can't put much on a flyer there. So that's my question is, what would be specific, like that would be the best thing for like one single flyer that just had a very small amount of information on, do you think?
I'm going to let Christian answer that question because he's the chair of the materials committee, the voter materials committee.
I'm sorry, I only heard the very end of that question. So you're looking for information to put on a very simple flyer around voting, is that?
Yeah, so for the League of Women Voters for the South Bay, we have, I'm sorry, it's so noisy. There keeps getting more noises in my house. It's unbelievable. I've made flyers for them that have some of what you've already said, but I wanted a flyer that was specifically like targeted to people with disabilities. So we've made a flyer with how to register to vote. We've made a flyer for schools with information about how old you have to be and so on. But I'm interested in making one of our flyers, and so just that little tiny bit of information, like 3 paragraphs. Right?
3 paragraphs. Oh my gosh.
Well, so so I think we're gonna
bullet points.
Yeah, I think we're continuing to develop materials, but we made. With Christian and I, with the materials committee, we made a 1-pager, really fun, lots of pictures, how to register to vote, aimed for the audience of people with disabilities, especially people who use alternative communication. And because there's a lot of pictures and a lot of simple language, not a lot of words.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would that be on the website? That would be on Disability Votes California website?
Yeah, in the resources section, it's in the plain language guides area. And I think, I mean, this isn't going to reach the whole disability community, but the remote accessible vote by mail piece that Emma did mention, that's actually new, that it's available in every county since January. So that's a very important one to spread the word on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, good luck.
And everything that's we've ever made in the materials committee is on the website.
Okay.
There's a lot of other resources that Christian made before, and a lot of other groups made.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
We actually linked to your Easy Vote guide because it's just, you know, fairly easy to understand and a really good resource from the League of Women Voters as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Esther Kelsey, you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering, how can I share this with the sub-advocates? Because I'm involved with the sub-advocates, and we have conference call every evening. And I was wondering, how can I get it to them?
That's a great idea. Well, first, I mean, are you guys still doing your meetings nightly on Zoom?
Yes, we are.
Would you be interested? So you should know Esther runs this amazing self-advocacy organization, mostly on the West Side, but I think people are from all over in LA. And I've spoken to them before. Would you like somebody from Disability Vote California to present? I mean, well, Wesley could certainly present, but one of us could come with Wesley to present to your group.
Yes, I would like that.
But so Esther, I know your number and I have your email. Wesley, maybe you and I could figure out a good day that we could do a presentation for the self-advocacy group.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
And the other question I wanted to know, I guess one of the young ladies answered it for me already. I wanted to know, you know, they have a simple book that people can read that instead of that thicker book, there's another book that people can read that's better understanding.
Yeah, that's a plainer language.
It's like a friendly, it's like a friendly user guide.
So Christian, I mean, you were saying that the League of Women Voters often prepares plain language.
Well, it's not plain language necessarily. They call it the Easy Vote Guide, and it is plain language adjacent is what I would call it. It's just like really easy to understand, but not necessarily written as a plain language resource. I don't.
What there is, which might be quite simple, is the Voters Edge, which will be full around.
I didn't hear.
Sorry. Yeah, what I was saying is what the Legal Women Voters has is a website called Voters Edge. And when you go there and put in your address, it will give you just the things that you are going to be, is just what's going to be on your ballot. So that simplifies it because you haven't got like the whole book. You've just got those things that are for your particular precinct, right? And that will be ready the end of September-ish.
But Karen, are the materials in Voter Edge the same materials that come in the big book, or are they written in plainer language?
In Voters Edge, for the candidates, it's written by the candidates themselves, and for the propositions, the proposers, and they get to input stuff themselves. So no, it isn't plainer language than what's in the book. It's just simplified because on the website it gives you just like a line of things that is what is going to be on your ballot, so you can see like it very directly, which I think is simpler than having a big book with lots of pages, but maybe it's not.
Yeah. I think for some people, different people access information in different ways.
Yeah.
So it's good to have it in lots of different forms.
It would be good if there was some more visuals, but that's hard to do.
Yeah, I get it. Roxy Ortiz, you had a question? Uh-oh, she said her phone died. She's dialing in now. Okay, so we'll go back to her. Any other questions from anyone or comments? Roxy, are you back yet? I see her name, but maybe she has to dial on a separate. Dan Savino, do you know whether regional centers are going to be doing outreach through service coordinators to their clients? Because that would be an extraordinarily effective way to get to people. Yeah, there he is.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, say it again, Judy.
Do you know if regional centers might be interested in doing, through their service coordinators, doing outreach to their clients and the families around the census and around voting?
I know for a fact that I've seen quite a few action alerts about census stuff go out in just the past 2 days from multiple centers, using in part or in full the action alert that we put out just the other day. So that's definitely getting out there. As far as the voter registration, go ahead and check your email. You'll see my newest proposal that could be used not only by us, and I know that regional centers will certainly, there'll be folks who will use that as well. As far as the direct calls and all of that, I know that certainly part of the IPP process, the regional centers being, motor voter and all that, I don't know that that's something that I could I could commit 21 of 21 to, but I know that we'll certainly be getting resources out to folks for how to connect their community to voting and voter registration options. The National Voter Registration Day option that I've forwarded to you, I think that could be definitely a great jumping off point. I'll be sharing with the ARCA Client Advisory Committee tomorrow voter registration and as well as the script. So we'll see that coming down to folks as well.
Great. Thanks, Dan. That's great. Roxy, you back?
Oh, great. Hello?
Hi,
I
Roxy.
think I'm in.
Yep, you are.
Thank you so much. My phone just died, so I appreciate the patience here. So I just had actually now I have two questions. So my first one was in regards to the script, are we able to make minor modifications to it? Because I know here, especially I'm calling in LA County, they've been very progressive, our county elections office, in regards to really providing voter, not only voter registration, but actually on voting day, open opportunities for our voters to go vote. Like, for example, they are doing in-person voting 10 days before election day. They are also doing same-day registration, which I think, Judy, you mentioned. Also, instead of polling centers where voters used to be assigned, to a polling center, now they're doing voter centers, which is all across the county, that any voter in LA County can go to those voting centers. You're no longer tied into your actual voting polling place. So I just wanted to, we're able to make some minor modifications to this script as we're sharing this information with individuals that we serve.
Yes, please do make modifications. And I forgot to say that every part of the state is different, every organization is different, and they are going to spread this message differently. And really feel free, if there's something that we missed or something that you want to add, please feel free to do so.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. And I do want to piggyback on what Daniel mentioned in regards to the motor voter. I know at our center, we definitely are very proactive in having this opportunity available to the individuals that we serve. It was just perfect timing with this particular training on this webinar, because next week we are having a resource meeting available to the community. It's going to be all about census. We're working with the Census Bureau on getting that information out, and it's going to be to targeted our Spanish-speaking population, our family. So we're definitely going to be putting that information out there. And then, of course, in October, we're going to be having a major voter registration campaign. So again, just really going hand in hand with the efforts that you guys are doing. So I really do appreciate that we're merging the information and getting the word out there.
That's great. Thanks, Roxy. Roxy, which center are you from?
I am with Eastern LA Regional Center.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's great. That's great. Other questions from anybody before I think maybe, Emma, we could add is to, even though all of you some of you received the script, maybe we can change something at the beginning, just say, feel free to modify this, make it your own. Okay.
Yes, I want to send it again in case people, I also made some changes and I want, in case people don't know where it is, I'll send it again. I'll also send the email template script as well, just in case you want to just copy and paste and put it onto an email and send an email with attached the outreach script with everyone you know and everyone that would benefit from it.
Great. All right. Any final questions or comments before we?
All right.
Was there something?
Hi, yes, this is Francisco with San Andreas Regional Center.
Hi.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was muted or not, but
No,
what I
I can
wanted
hear
to
you.
share is, yes, okay. I just so you know, and I know a lot of regional centers have been proactive for the last few years in getting consumers registered to vote, and I'm glad that the topic of conservatorship came up, because it's actually two things. The first thing is, on the conservatorship, letting the person know that the person has the right to vote. The other part of it is getting them registered to vote. So it's really a two-piece when it comes to that part. And so I think the messaging on that really has to be clear for the advocates that are out there. It's a two-step process. That letting the individual know that they're eligible to vote. And then the second part of it is that, to make sure they get registered to vote. On the other part, I know as far as our regional center, and I know the Bay Area has been pretty proactive in getting out the vote. We actually have voter cards at each of our offices. We've gone through the process of educating our staff about making sure that their consumers know that they have the right to vote. And the conservatorship is always the one that comes up. And, unfortunately, some of our own staff don't know that they do have a right. They have a right to vote. The challenge is when it's the person that's their conservator, if it's the parent or someone else, that's where the challenge comes in. But that's just what I wanted to share. Thank you for having this discussion. It's been very informative.
Thank you. That was great. We're so happy that your regional center is part of this. Really, really great.
Judy, I also want to mention something. My name is Kiara Lopez. I'm with South Central LA Regional Center. So for us, we actually applied to become a polling place in November. We are waiting to hear back, But we have also been very active in just getting some of our consumers and families to also register to vote and to actually cast their vote, as well as with the census. So that is one of the activities that we're hoping to be hosting in November.
Wonderful. That's great. So that's 3 regional centers on here. Fantastic. Unless there might be even more. So shout out if you're from another regional center, but really, really great. Thank you all. I just think that, you know, this is a unique time that we're in. People need to vote safely, but it's also the most important election of our lifetime. So, you know, we're really at Disability Vote California, we're calling for people to vote early, by mail or by drop-off box, to not wait until the day of. It's because we're at the time of COVID. And so we just think that, you know, any connections we have to do this outreach really, really deep into our community is critical. The other thing I should say that we care about at DVC is that we want to show that we have power, that we are the disability community. And so we really invite all of you, if you're not on our mailing list, please get on our mailing list, because we're going to be doing these candidate forums, and so I don't want to have a candidate forum with 2 candidates running against each other and 4 people show up. I mean, that'll be kind of embarrassing. So we need to get people to be here. We know that we're already doing one for the LA County Board of Supervisors race between Herb Wesson and Holly Mitchell. We know that we're doing one for the Nazarian race. And then we know we've actually reached out to both the Trump and the Biden campaigns and asked for representatives who can speak to some of the disability issues we care about. So, we are nonpartisan. Where we're not as nonpartisan is with the, it's not really partisan actually. Where we are allowed to take positions is on the propositions. We cannot take any positions on candidates, but nonprofits are absolutely allowed to not only take a position on the propositions, but advocate for a proposition. And so I'm not sure that we will actually do that on any of them, but we are going to be exploring in detail a few of them, the one on affirmative action, the 2 on taxes, and the one on the shared ride, because we feel like all of those have a relationship to the disability community. We may do others as well, just to provide that information. But, you know, we hope to do it in a way that people will understand what is being said. We'll do it in you know, clear language so that people can really make their own choices. But we may come in a little biased on some of them. We'll have to see. All right, if anybody else, I see Dawn wants to be added to the mailing list, so I'll definitely add you, Dawn. And I want to thank everybody for showing up in the evening, and really have a great night. And we'll get information out to all of you in the next day or 2. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.